Welcome back, Everyday Business Leaders. I'm Melanie Ake, your host for today's show, coming to you from JP the Geek Studio right here in Greenwood. I'm thrilled to have you with us today. We're going to be meeting Valarie Brunning from Brunning Law Firm, and I can't wait for you to understand what she's doing and the value that she's bringing to the community. So connect and celebrate our remarkable business leaders from our very own community. We are redefining the way we think and grow. Now remember, subscribe to our channel so you never miss an episode. Let's meet Valarie. Hi, Valarie.
Hello.
This is awesome.
Thank you. I appreciate you having me.
This is really great. You know, I met you just a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
Well, you came to Top Floor Women.
Yes.
And I just asked you, like, how did you find out about Top Floor Women?
Yeah, I just Googled it. I mean, it was as simple as that. I got online looking for Southside networking events, particularly for women, and decided to show up. And I did a whole bunch of networking in the same day. I did Top Floor, and then I did No Wib at lunchtime. So it was some of my first networking events, and I got a lot of response from that. A lot of people emailed me. So I've been able to really connect. Yeah.
That's really great. Well, I love celebrating, especially women in business, because
Thank you.
That's what I am.
Yes.
No bias there. Sorry, guys. We love you too. However, I think it's really great for women to connect with other women business leaders. We understand kind of the obstacles that we have, and some of the strategies is what we talk about all the time on this program.
Yeah.
So I am excited to introduce our community to you and your services.
I appreciate that. Thank you. This is definitely the community I want to serve in. The south side of Indianapolis is where I was raised, Franklin specifically, and it's where I know I'm supposed to be.
So tell me a little bit about your history, because I know we're going to get into what you do and how you're serving people. So you grew up in Franklin.
I did. I traveled around a little bit to finish college. I ended up graduating down in Tennessee at ETSU, kind of a small school. My grandparents lived down there, and there was an opportunity, and I wanted to travel, but came back to the Kentucky area where I worked at Fidelity Investments for a while. And then I ended up coming back home, because most people do, right? And then I worked at Ronald Blue Trust for several more years. So I ended up getting a lot of financial experience all throughout my 20s before I decided to go to law school.
What drove you to make the decision? That's a big decision, right? It's not I'm going to be an accountant or I'm going to be a doctor.
Right.
Like, law is, you can do a lot of different things.
And a lot of people come out of college thinking like, oh, I'm going to go to law school. And a lot of people do that. But McKinney, which is the IU Law School in Indianapolis, has a program for evening students. And most of them are people who have had a little bit more life experience, and I would say have something unique to offer. So I was in my late 20s. I'd had about, 6-8 years, depending on what jobs you count, of experiences, particularly in the financial world. And I decided that it was my time to build a flat platform to speak from. And it was not coming easily to me, even though I thought I had really good ideas and a lot to offer. And I decided that I was going to pay $100,000 to a law school to build that platform. 5 years ago, me was a little crazy, but here I am today. And I do feel like it's been very effective, because I originally thought, I'm going to go into this because I want to be able to walk into a room full of people and have influence and, be a leader. And what I've learned is that is not necessarily what's happened. What I have found the most meaning and purpose in is talking one-on-one to people. The friends and family that call you in crisis and they're like, what do I do? And you sit down with them over coffee and you talk things out and you have everyday problems, right? So that's kind of what led me to this and what helped me know this is the right path for me.
So who inspired you to kind of want to connect to people in this way? Because I know it's not something for everybody, right? But it takes a lot of commitment on your part to get through the schooling, be really focused on like, this is exactly the path that I know. And you're a first generation, right? For
I am.
Going through
I don't
law.
have any family members before me, like many kids do, right? Or adults, they have mentors in their life and their family members and parents that are going to hand the law firm off to them. So your question is, why do I want to meet with individuals versus groups? I mean, honestly, it's just it's just been what's come to me. It's not really something I sought out. I obviously sought out law school and finishing that because I wanted to have a platform to speak from and to really, I wanted to have a voice, and I want to teach other people to have a voice. And so I've discovered through this process that a lot of time I'm just sitting down with people, and it's not even legal advice. I'm saying your voice matters. Mm-hmm. How you show up in the world matters. How you experience the world matters, regardless of what the leaders and influencers are telling you. You're allowed to tell yourself that. And then, oh yeah, here's your legal rights. Yeah. Okay. And not only your legal rights, but you should not feel guilty or have shame for implementing those rights, which I think some people are taught that you can't do that without it being,
ugly.
Right. It doesn't have to be ugly. We can do this in a non-adversarial way.
So if you empower yourself, if you educate yourself, right, you can make better decisions.
Correct. And I don't think education is always tied to that, but in my case it was. And so I decided I was going to do this, and I don't want to be like the fancy attorney with the fancy car. I'm okay driving my Honda CRV, and it's 3 years old, and I love that. I feel like it makes me authentic. And like I was telling you earlier, I've eaten way too much Taco Bell in my life to be a bougie attorney that's suited up every day.
Okay, what's your favorite Taco Bell? If we were in drive-thru right now, what would we be ordering?
So there's only a few Taco Bells that sell it, but it's the chili cheese burrito, and there's one over on County Line that sells it. And so anytime I'm driving by, I'm like, man, to decide how much heartburn I want for that day. So.
Okay, you heard that, chili cheese burritos.
Yeah, extra cheese.
So your first appointment with Valarie, bring her a chili cheese burrito.
Right. I'll give you extra legal advice. Yeah.
That's awesome. Yeah. So going into law, you have lots of choices, right? So many lanes that you can do. Why did you choose the lane that you did for estate planning and financial? Yeah. I think that's pretty tough because when people come to you, if they haven't planned, they're pretty distraught. Mm-hmm.
And I would say when people come to me, it's two main areas of law. It's estate planning and family law. Those are generally where the most crisis is happening. You either have a death or you have a divorce or a disabled child. Any one of those things can be happening. And so I would say that all of my experience throughout my 20s in the financial planning world exposed me to a significant amount of the technical side of estate planning. How accounts are titled, how assets are managed. You're actually seeing the trades take place in the account. You're working with the mutual funds. You're working with all these different things. And I was what I call like a frontline rep, where you're answering questions that are extremely technical. And, how do I change the titling on this account from a joint account to a trust account, that type of thing. So I just became more and more interested in what trusts can do, and then your power of attorneys and all those things that can affect accounts. And I decided that I didn't just decide this. I got feedback from my employers that I became very good at making complex ideas more simple and using analogies to help people navigate that. And I just walked away from that experience thinking, this doesn't have to be a scary thing. There are difficult choices that need to be made when you're naming people in these different roles. And that's half the conversation, is the relational aspect of estate planning and family law. Mm-hmm. You're seeing people in their most triggered states, their most people will say like, oh, they're showing their true colors. I don't think that's a reflection of their true colors. It's when they're triggered and in a highly emotional state, and it's helping people through that state that I can walk into that space and have something to offer. And I'm also actually becoming a licensed mediator as well, which is a little bit different. But I want to stay sharp in that area of just navigating relationships. But then, of course, I come home to my 13-year-old and lose it. It's like I can go into these difficult,
you need a mediator then, right?
Parents. Right. Exactly. So.
No, I love that. Here's the thing, right? If you don't have these services aligned and you're not preparing.
Yes.
You can be caught.
Yes.
Right. And that's where the triggers
more importantly, your
happen.
family is caught. And so you implementing these plans is planning for your family not being caught. And that is really where I think there's just a disassociation with your death and with all of these horrible things that can happen in your life. And you have to sit down and really get honest with yourself. And so making these plans is for your family. and get the fighting out now. Name the people that you're going to name in your wills, and as guardian of your children, and then tell people, this is what I'm doing. Mm-hmm. And if you don't like it, come and talk to me. You're not going to take it out on them. It's not their fault, right?
You may die earlier.
Yeah, exactly. And we have to have those morbid conversations. Yeah. That's just every day for me. So
yeah. I think that's probably the toughest part, right? Mm-hmm. When you say managing conflict, mm-hmm. it's people realizing like what is important to them and what do they value right now. And so maybe people would say, hey, if I do this today, maybe mm-hmm. things would change, and maybe I don't want people to know.
Right.
And so that's a tough thing too, because when you pass on, it's like you just don't want to open an envelope and be like, surprise.
Right. Exactly. And that it causes so much conflict to do that. Not always. Some families are all on the same page. I don't know many of them though. I mean, there's even if people appear on the outside to be the nicest and best communicators, that is not what's happening behind closed doors. Mm-hmm. It's not. Relationships can be destroyed when things go to probate and wills get contested, and all those things happen because nobody was prepared. Mm-hmm. It destroys relationships for lifetimes. Wow. So yeah.
Well, my family, they used to like write on the bottom of everything.
Please tell me they didn't do that on their will. Oh,
put little tags on.
Not even initial. Don't even do that. Yeah.
But I think about how it used to be. And mm-hmm. then how simple it is today. Like mm-hmm. you can just go to you and spend a few hours probably just going through things, mm-hmm. but making sure that things are protected.
Yes.
And I think that's kind of what you bring to this community, especially for women that want to say, hey, I want to be confident and comfortable having a conversation.
Particularly single women. I have like a lot of friends that are single that are just so terrified that their children may go to their dad that's a drug addict, or, just really horrible situations, right? Mm-hmm. And also you don't want grandparents fighting and all this type of thing. So I certainly want to work with those women, and just that probably terror that they feel every single day, like what's going to happen to my kids if I'm their only caregiver. Mm-hmm. So I have created like what I think is a super simple process. And also COVID has made a lot of this possible. I do like a 45-minute no obligation and virtual consultation, which you can book on my website. And then I do an electronic intake form. And the conversation we have is, let's talk about the people that you need to name in these various roles. Here are the roles that we need to name together. Here's the morbid decisions we need to make about your health care, end of life care. And then I send out the intake form so they can put in all like the legal spelling of each name, the phone numbers, addresses. And then once I come back, I draft everything. I upload it to the client portal. I have them review their drafts. And then I have a couple days a month where I come in here to JP the Geek. I get the conference room. And I have several, signings in one day. And so we sit down. I have my witness there, and we just get everything signed, make sure names are spelled correctly. And it makes it really easy. I really feel like the time that's spent on it is 2, maybe 3 hours max, depending, and you can include driving time to JP the Geek.
Wow.
So,
wow.
Yeah.
Joe, if you can you bring her website up for us so that we can just take a look at that and people can start getting familiar and navigating through the website. So there it is. Beautiful sunset.
Yep. The 4-step approach.
Yeah.
My husband helped me create my logo. He did amazing.
It. I love it.
So yes, currently I'm advertising estate planning and special needs planning. I do have a special needs daughter who I've navigated quite a bit of the system and the different special needs trusts. So I love having that conversation with people. I will be adding small business planning on here as well. And that is something I will currently include in people's estate plan, but that's my brother and his kids. Aren't they beautiful?
They are.
Yeah.
Gorgeous.
I made them pose, and he's like, let's get this over with, kids.
Pretty simple.
Yep.
Pretty
I have
simple.
a mailing address, but physical address changes. I can be mobile. I'll come to people's houses, or we'll meet at JP the Geek.
That's awesome.
I'm going to be adding, so you can see the tabs at the top. I have our About Us, but I'm going to be adding next to Client Portal an advisor channel. So there are some advisors, investment advisors, CPAs, people that are referring work to me that wants to have a more one-on-one experience. They want to kind of help tailor that experience. And a lot of them don't want to have the client repeat themselves. So it's not there yet, but it's going to be like a intake form that advisors can fill out. And they don't want their client to repeat themselves. So they communicate all the information to me. And then obviously I have to have the client sign the engagement letter and talk with them at some point and then meet for the signing. But it's something I'm working on developing because advisors have said that's going to be very helpful for them. So.
That is so great to just really listen and, like you said, simplify the process and help understand what do people need.
Exactly. And a lot of times they don't know, and they might have had a conversation with an advisor and they don't know how to repeat what the advisor said you need. So,
hi, I'm Melanie Ake, founder of Everyday Leaders, and I'm excited to share with you a new training resource for your team called the Leadership Game. The Leadership Game is a tool. It's administered exclusively by John Maxwell team members. And when you bring this assessment tool in to lead your organization, it shows you the current level of your leadership and gives you tangible and actionable results to move forward. So don't delay. Get in the game, the Leadership Game, exclusively from Everyday Leaders. Well, I applaud you because there's a lot of people that get into the law for different reasons.
Yeah.
You know, my girlfriend, my best friend is a judge over in Ohio. So she went to school and she was always like, I'm going to be a judge. I'm going to be a judge.
Yeah.
So she ran for office.
I love
she ran
that.
the second time and now she is seated as a judge. And
I love
she's
it.
about this tall.
Yeah. That's perfect. Hopefully she has like a little step stool to stand on.
But the dreams, right? You get into it for different reasons.
You do.
But it's always about serving people. And so
For
that's
most attorneys,
why.
we get a bad rap for a reason, but we like to say, most of us, I feel like, want to serve people.
You do want to serve people.
Yeah.
So I love that, you know, what you're doing is going to be helping so many different people.
I hope
There
so,
is a girl, I'm just going to give her a shout out right now, Sarah Kendrick.
Okay.
You may not know her yet.
I don't, but I would love to.
Spoke at an event that we had for women last April. But she does like business planning.
Okay.
So if we were going to lose everything as a business owner and we were in the hospital, we would need all of our documents in line, right?
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
I would love to connect the two of you.
Yeah, I would, because what I'm doing is more of your like kind of basic level, like moving people away from sole proprietorships into the, you know, LLC 9 out of 10 times to keep those assets separate. But there are people that specialize specifically in business planning and strategizing. And I would love, if it's any more complex than what I do, I would love to refer people. So please,
It's so great because I think of all the people that through COVID, I think people started to specialize in like, hey, there's a gap over here, or you may have this process thought out, right? You may have your trust and your wills, but like what else is there that I'm not thinking about that, oh, if that doesn't happen, then this stuff isn't going to work.
Well, and I'll give you an example. You might have your trust and your will, but it's completely different to have the trust documents and to fund your trust. And it doesn't always make sense to have those trust documents if you haven't gone through and retitled everything, your bank accounts, your investment accounts, your properties. Because if it's really your goal to avoid probate, which I can get to in a second, you really have to fully fund your trust and make sure all of your assets will go directly into your trust. And sometimes you'll have assets that you miss, and that's what the pour over will is for. It's like, okay, we have to open an estate, but everything will ultimately go to your trust. And so that's what some attorneys just rely on is the pour over will. But I'm telling you, going through the process of funding your trust makes it much easier for your family. And so I give people trust funding plans along with their trust documents, so they're not just walking away like, I have a trust. Like, that does not make you special, please. So probate is something I want to speak about for a minute. Everyone's scared of the word probate, right? It means you're in court. I think it conjures up a sense of like, adversarial fighting.
Waiting, right? People think like I'm going to have to wait 3 years because something's going through probate. So what's the real skinny on this?
So I think that there's a difference between probate without a will and probate with a will. So the bare minimum of what you should be getting in place is a will. That's what makes probate not scary. It's after COVID, it's almost completely electronic. There's very few hearings, unless you're getting into that contested world where somebody's like, I don't like what that will says, or they signed another one, that type of thing. But if you're just your basic, someone passes away, an estate needs to be opened because your assets are over $100,000. That's kind of a new thing too. Then it is so much easier than what it used to be. So I always have that conversation with people of, okay, like probate used to be scary. It's not scary anymore if you have your will in place. And so the administration of a trust and probate are relatively the same and equal cost. So maybe you can avoid the expense of having an entire trust drafted for you and all the administrative hassle of funding it. So I have that conversation with people, you know, just to make sure, like, does this really make sense for you to do this? Because so many law firms are like trust mills. They're just like turn and burn, kind of making your trust. And I don't know that always makes sense.
But asking deeper questions,
Yes,
right?
yes,
Because things have changed. And so, and the law changes, and people don't think that it does. It's like, well, I've always done it this way, or our family has always said to do it this way, or our family attorney has said to do it this way. But I always say, like, look and investigate what's new. Has anything changed? Has your lifestyle changed? So maybe you need to cover something differently.
Yeah. Or has someone gotten a divorce that you named in your documents? I mean, we have to ask those questions. Like, it is a good idea to review your estate plan every few years and make sure it's where you want it to be. Yeah.
So what else is coming down the pipes for Valarie? Because I know with your business, now you're getting ready to kind of step into some big shoes here and say, I want to serve bigger.
Yeah.
You're going to be speaking at Top Floor Women here coming up in the next few months.
Yes.
So we're excited. We're going to fill the room and have people come. We haven't had anybody speak about legal estate planning and that. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah. So I as of January 1st, that was like my hard launch when I got on all the socials. I started my website. I have quite a bit of experience already as an attorney, like several years. I worked all through my 20s, not as a lawyer, but in the financial world. And then the last 3 years, as in different kind of attorney roles. But I decided, I'm like, this is where I'm going to show up. This is what I'm going to do. And so I've launched it full scale. And really, I think what's coming is I just want to help people get their estate plans in place and showing people this is not as daunting as it probably has always seemed to you and has been portrayed to you. And I also have transparent pricing. And that's something that I'm really excited about offering and kind of continuing with is you can go on my website and look at the prices and that there's payment plans available. And it makes it very accessible, and very few attorneys do that. So I want to continue on in my plan to make this simple for people. I want people to know, I want them to know everything to expect up front. You know, calling a law firm and, I need to get this in place and how much is it going to be?
Right?
And
It's scary.
They won't even tell you until after you do your consult, and you're looking at easily $1,000 to $2,000 or even more. And this is like, it's just my primary goal to make it accessible. So any changes I need to make it even more accessible, I will always consider. And then I do a little bit of family law with a firm out in Richmond called the Ceasefire Center, Family Law Center. And that's really fun. My boss, Jessica Richard, shout out. She's amazing. Love her. She's one of my mentors too. So she really teaches me to focus on like non-adversarial approaches. So yeah.
That's awesome. Well, this has been really fun getting to know you.
Thank you. Yeah.
I have a little game that I always play.
Oh, no.
that I've been playing this year.
Is this one of those raise your hands and get picked?
This is these are leadership quotes.
Oh, okay.
So I love, how you're building your business. So this is just it's a restaurant that we went to on vacation in
fun.
Williamsburg called Food for Thought.
Okay.
So it's some of these just world leaders and thought leaders, and they've given quotes to people. So in the restaurant, they have them all over the restaurant, but they have these cards.
Yeah.
So I thought, it would be really fun to have everybody draw, and then it's probably some kind of an intellectual leadership lesson. So I'll have you draw and read, and you're on the spot now. You're in the hot seat.
Okay. This is the family discussion edition.
Oh, good.
Parents say, what is the most important thing you can teach your children? And then kids would be, what is the most important thing you can do for your parents?
Perfect for your 13-year-old, right?
Oh.
So
Goodness. Yeah.
Okay. You're on the hot seat.
Okay. Am I answering the ones for parents then?
Yeah.
What is the most important thing you can teach your children? So something that is extremely important to me, and my husband and I have sat down and talked about like our family values and trying to teach the girls. Like, we make decisions because of these family values, and it's not always going to look cute or perfect, but this is what we're trying to do. And his value that he voiced one, I voiced one, and so we're in harmony on these two. His is kindness and serving others, and I support that one. And mine is personal responsibility. If you make a mistake, just say, man, I wish I didn't do that, or I didn't realize that I was doing that, or you make some kind of statement acknowledging that you were the one that did it and that you are sorry for how it impacted other people, because generally it's being brought to you because it impacted somebody in a negative way. And so personal responsibility is so important to me, because you can make as many mistakes as you need to learn, as long as you're continuing to acknowledge that, okay, I'm working on this. Sorry, I didn't mean for that to happen, whatever it is. And then my husband is, kindness. He's very sacrificial. He's very, always comes from a place of giving people the benefit of the doubt. I'm a little more skeptical. We balance each other nicely.
What does he do?
So he's actually a supply manager down at Honda. So he works with a lot of people. He's very into like a process efficiency and making sure everyone's on the same page, and great communicator.
He's got to get everybody on the same wavelength and teamwork and being kind. And
he slows me down, and he's like, okay, Val, like, let's think about this. And one funny thing he said before is he said, like, we need to chill a little bit. And by we, I mean you, right? And he's like, we just need to chill. And I'm like, all right, I'm going to really focus on chill. I'm going to be at peak chillness today. And he's like, Val, it's not a peak. It's a valley. So let's just bring it down, okay?
It's like Valarie, right?
Exactly. Well, I appreciate him. He does a lot to help me focus on like my business plan when I'm all over the place, so just thinking about 1,000 different things at once. So shout out to my husband.
Shout out. Well, I love the personal responsibility, right? Because if kids, especially at 13, if your daughter takes this on and realizes like, that you can take with you for the rest of your life, anything that you do. And sometimes it's hard for us, right? When we don't see ourselves in a certain light. I mean, that's a big lesson.
Right. And it's just not, listen to me sounding like I'm 50. It's just not something that's taught in this culture, personal responsibility. You can hide behind your phone. You can hide behind, you're not in public as much as people used to be. And so it's a lot scarier to come in front of people and say what you need to say. But
that's awesome. All right. So as we close here, just what would be one thing that you want every single person that listens to this or watches it know? Because this is going to be streaming on audio as well. Yeah. But what would you say is the biggest gap that people aren't aware of in your field that they need to say, like, do this today to protect yourself and your family?
Okay. Well, obviously, get your will, right? Like, you need to get your will in place, your advanced healthcare directives in place, your power of attorney in place, and all these different things. I want, like, there's like 6,000 things. How do I narrow in? This is a little bit different. I don't think people think about this kind of stuff, but I did some work as a fiduciary with the firm for my first couple years out of law school. And I was acting as the personal representative, the trustee, because there was nobody that either could or the person had passed away. There's a bunch of fighting family members, so they appoint this fiduciary, right? And the number of times I walked into a home filled to the brim with stuff that people were convinced that their children wanted and that was worth something and that they wanted to pass down, and nobody wanted anything. And I walked in with the auctioneer, Jack Christie. Did we just lose our lights?
Did lose a light.
Hold on. Hang on.
You stopped on Jack Christie's side.
Okay.
Hold on. Let me see if I can. Hang on, Joe.
I think you can do it.
Oh, there it is.
Okay. So what we'll do is, we were talking about Jack Christie.
Okay.
All right.
We'll just pick up on the story on Jack
Okay.
Christie,
Yeah.
and I'll cut it.
That's so
Okay.
weird. Okay.
Yeah.
You guys are there. Go.
Okay. So Jack Christie is the auctioneer up in Beech Grove. He's a wonderful person. If you ever have any needs for estate sales, any kind of anything, he is your man. But we would walk into the home together. I mean, there'd be nice wood furniture. There'd be like some collections of things, fine china. It doesn't sell. You can take it to the auction. It doesn't sell. It's not worth anything when it comes down to, your fair market value with wanting to pass on something to your children. More importantly, the children don't want it. They don't want to take all their house is already filled with stuff. So as much as you can, what I like to tell people is spend your money on memories, on experiences, and that connection with your family, do not buy stuff, okay? And to me, that's just as much a part of your estate plan as anything.
I love that. Breath of fresh air, right?
Hopefully.
So hopefully everybody that's listened to this today has a plan.
Yeah.
They have some sort of a plan to move
Yeah.
forward. And
If they don't, they can call me.
they can call you,
Yeah.
Valarie Brunning.
Yes, thank
That's
you.
awesome. Thank you for joining us today.
You're welcome.
This is so fun. All right. Well, we're going to close the show here, but thank you for tuning into this episode of Everyday Business Leaders. I hope you were inspired to think and grow differently about your business, but especially about your life, your loved ones, and the things that you need to do right now. Call Valarie Brunning. All right. So remember, the journey of growth and innovation never ends, and it's our mission to keep bringing you the best insights from our local community. So stay tuned for more episodes filled with wisdom, innovation, and inspiration. This is Melanie Ake signing off from JP the Geek Studio, where better IT service is just a call away. They say own it, secure it, and protect it. Until next time, don't forget, subscribe to our channel and turn those notifications on so you never miss an episode. Everyday Leaders helps you to develop strategies to become a better leader in your life. Remember, it's not what you do in a day. It's what you do every day that makes the most impact. Thanks for following us.